More than 10 years after breaking the Clinton Lewinsky story, Matt Drudge remains more powerful than ever with his website, thedrudgereport.com. A recent article on thepolitico.com raises questions about the role Drudge will play as the campaign moves into the general election. Is Drudge starting to lean to the left? And will that hurt McCain? Patricia, what do you think about that? There are some Republicans who are complaining, surprised, I guess, that they say Drudge has become more of a problem for them than he is for Democrats.
Well, I would say, to borrow a line that we heard earlier, welcome to the Democrats' world. But also, there was a really interesting quote from Matt Drudge when Hillary Clinton looked to be the presumptive nominee. She was getting a lot of good coverage by Drudge, and he said, "Hillary Clinton is my bank." And there was a Democratic strategist who said Matt Drudge can add, he knows where the numbers are. And if Obama looks like he is going to be the nominee, if he were to be the president, that's where the story is. And so we are starting to see more coverage of Obama, more favorable coverage.
But why this turn on McCain?
Well, I think he may, be reflecting just where the country is. The country is 81% wrong track in terms of the incumbent situation. So maybe Drudge feels that way too. It is striking when you go through a newsroom and you see every computer there on the homepage is the Drudge Report. It does. All these quotes from Mark Halperin and John Harris about how Drudge is the god of our world. The reporters, they're not entirely wrong. It is an agenda setter.
Cal, I got to ask, what's your homepage?
My homepage is actually it's a picture of my grandson, but that's another. No. But, look, I think people go with the flow. And the flow right now, as Jim indicated, is toward Obama, the storyline and the rest. But if things begin to turn, I think the Drudge Report will turn. But this is an easy one-stop shop for journalists. You can go anywhere in the world, newspapers, columnists, including
all kinds of links,
all kinds of things. It's a cafeteria. So it's really an easy place to start from. I hope people don't end there, but it's not a bad starting point.
And I suppose your students probably,
you know, my students don't go there. They
really?
read. No, I think it's a journalist's narcissism site. It's journalists with the links and journalists looking. One thing that he has done, of course, is when a news organization is holding a story like the Lewinsky scandal or the McCain story, he was talking to journalists who were saying the New York Times was having trouble with the story and McCain was going, I believe he broke that story as well. So when news organizations are holding things, he seems to be a very good source.
The reporter can go to the editor and say, look, if you won't print it, I'll just give it to Drudge.
Yeah.
But also the Democratic campaigns have spent quite a bit of time reaching out to Drudge in the way that they have to, which is kind of back channels and not being too obvious about it. But they've spent a lot of time figuring out how to break into that world, and it's starting to yield results for them.
All right, here was a surprising development this week that I want to talk with you all about. Young people suffer from news fatigue. A new study from the Associated Press says 18 to 34-year-olds, quote, yearn for quality and in-depth reporting, and they are not getting it. So, Jane, what's going on?
Well, this was music to my ears in a way because, it said that one of the problems is that they don't really know how to weed out a lot of the noise. My students read online, and what they were suggesting is that if you give a headline and then a sort of a second layer and a third layer to point young people towards, here's where you can go for something more investigative, you can get a jump in your website. I thought that was very heartening for news organizations.
Patricia, you're in business because, old-fashioned newspapers are sort of going the way of the buggy whip. Sorry, Cal. But
I haven't been to one of those places recently.
But, I've been under the impression that young people just, grab little snippets of information from the internet. I was really surprised that they're saying, at least according to the AP, we want deeper stuff. We want more quantity, more quality.
Yeah, and I think actually the way that young people live their lives is a little bit of the problem that they have here. Most kids, when they have the internet up, they also have their instant messaging up. They have their BlackBerries in their pockets. They have their messaging with their friends all the time. So I don't think that they have kind of news deficit. They have information overload, and they are just trying to figure out what to focus on at what time.
And let's also bear in mind, there's one rule about young people: they get older, and as you get older and you start paying taxes, that was an experience for me. You start thinking more about political issues, and I think also, let's say it, Obama has done a lot to get young people activated in politics.
And it'll be interesting to see if they all show up on, what is it, November 2nd? 7th? 4th. Okay.
And by the way, of being part of the buggy whip generation is having more than 500 newspapers and having a column in USA Today. Hit me again. But look, I think this whole 1834 thing, this demo business, is a myth. If they're not watching, if they don't like what they're getting, then why are we doing bimbo news most of the time?
All right, we have to take one more break. When we come back,
Hillary's out, McCain's in.